Geo, hi, welcome to the Female Startup Club podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
I'm so excited about today, and I want to give some context for our listeners because you and I have known each other since I feel like maybe even school or certainly like around that time when we graduated.
I can pinpoint.
You can pinpoint?
Yes. You dated my very good friend Dan, and I remember getting to know you, and you were really switched on then. Like you had a fashion blog. Wait, it was more a blog that was like a portfolio of your work. But yeah, I was like, ooh, that girl's really career focused.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's such a long time ago. I feel like that's 15 years ago, which it kind of freaks me out saying that. Maybe even nearly 20 years ago.
We have a connection through Lou when you worked at the Iconic in Sydney as well. So we've kind of stayed in the same network.
Yeah. I feel like I mean, I knew you a lot longer before Lou came to the Iconic. Like we were both Brizzy gals, but yes, that also loops us back in. And I feel like I've watched you over your career dabble in a few different things to do with fashion and all these kind of things before you started CinCin. And it's been such a joy watching you on the sidelines and kind of what's happened now with you and Lou, where the business is today and what you've managed to build is just so impressive to me. So I'm so excited for this.
Aw, me too. I mean, I remember when your podcast first came out, I was like, ooh, that'd be fun going on that.
Yeah, here we are. Here we are. I was wearing my CinCin bikinis that I bought in Bali yesterday, and they make my boobs look so good. I don't know if I told you that last time, but my best friend was like, "Your boobs look like the best boobs I've ever seen." And I was like, "I know. It's the bikinis."
I love hearing that. That's amazing. That's what we want. Thank God. There's a payoff to these blood, sweat, and tears.
I know. I feel like CinCin speaks to my soul in fashion form. But I want to go back to the beginning. I want to understand the start of your story with CinCin. How did you and Lou kind of come up with this idea? Where does it all start?
So Lou and I are old friends, and we both worked in fashion for years and years. That was our thing, right? And then we traveled for 3 months. It was a bit of a cathartic monumental travel experience. So we were away for 3 months, but this was after ending relationships, moving out of houses, changing cities. Lou left a really stressful job that gave her like adrenal failure at a fashion head office. And I basically split up with my fiance, moved out of that house, and we were like, yep, we're off, we're doing this. And then 3 months later, we returned back to Sydney. I moved to Sydney from Brisbane, and I actually started a business with someone else and quite quickly realized that that was feeling not right. And I thought I better pull the pin up. Lou and I were chatting. We just got on this roll. I remember it was like in Bondi, a sunny afternoon. And we just got really excited, like almost worked ourselves up. It's crazy to this day how our ideas are so on the same page. Yeah, we just got so excited. So I guess the root of it all was our creative idea that we were linked through that. And I think it was also timing, the perfect time. And we did decide, let's create a fashion label. And I guess it was a passion project in the beginning. And we didn't know what we were getting into at all. And never would I have thought that it would end up like this. And it's amazing. It's better than I could ever have envisioned, actually.
So at that time, were you already living in Bali? Like, did you already have that kind of life? Or were you like, oh, I should move to Bali to start the brand? No, you were already living in Bali.
I lasted in Sydney for 6 months, and then my lease ran out, and I'd always wanted to go to Sydney and Bali, sorry, and it never felt daunting to me. It always felt really like a comfortable thing to do. So I was like, all right, I'm going to Bali, and to avoid a big hoo-ha, I just said, okay, I'm going to go for 3 months, kind of knowing that it wasn't going to be 3 months. But then went there, and we were already in the process of setting up the brand, but we did bite off a lot in the beginning. Placement print, which is a process of like getting the motif onto certain garments in a fixed way so that you don't print a roll and cut the pattern pieces off that. You have a fixed piece of the pattern on every garment pattern piece. So that is tough, especially in the beginning. And even the girl that we had helping us, we asked her to help us with our second collection, and she said to us, I don't want to do it. I'm so sorry, but I can't do it again. It was too hard. I think now we find it a lot easier, but back then we had to lay out all the pattern pieces individually on the roll. So if you order 20 small, 20 medium, 20 large, you've got to lay them all out. Like, you can't just print. It also costs more money and waste more time.
Yeah, it costs more money, but does it also mean it's harder to kind of mass produce anything because it kind of more aligns itself to being small batch because it's so hands-on to do that technique?
You can do it commercially 100%, but it's going to use more fabric and show up errors and take a lot more time and care and skill. So that's why expensive print placement, like they'll have a border on the bottom of a pair of pants or a cuff or even just like a digital kind of graphic print. It will be in one spot. Imagine if you have like a sunset. Well, you wouldn't want one shirt that just has a corner of a cloud or something. But cheap brands, if you look at fast fashion, it's all small, repeat prints, usually with a lot of black lines. So if there's an error, it just gets hidden.
When it was like in the beginning, the early days, what was the vision at that point? Was it like, hey, let's just do some resort kind of bold patterns out there, like different styles, or what was the vision?
We started off doing silk pantsuits. So it was print on print, head to toe print. And we were inspired by Italy, which seems so cliche now, but it got under our skin. Yeah, we did really luxurious pleated pants. Do you have a pair?
I have some from the original or like the early, maybe the first or second collection.
The pink ones with the swells. Okay. Yeah, they're not the original, but we started with that and then matching button-up shirt, and it was a really cool look, and we brought it back now. Like our roots are still present because I love that look. It was almost like a silk pajama suit, I guess you could say. And printing on silk is hard too. Like, not only is the natural fiber printing another ball game, but silk fades. It's just tricky, I think.
As you've come like a few years into the journey now, when you think about the manufacturing piece and the fabrics and the dyeing and that kind of and the evolution that you've had, do you still do the same things? Like, are you still doing that printing on silk, or has it changed? And what have you learnt through the manufacturing piece?
So much. The learning curve is steep. So basically all our processes were fine-tuned, but they're very different from when we started. And I guess there's no handbook. And a lot of people are very, unwilling to give away information. I can't just go to someone and say, hey, how do we do this? It's really trial and error, and then seeing what works best, seeing what sells best, and seeing what gives you the best quality. But now it's also finding your suppliers. So the printer we started off with, hard to work with, just slow. And now I think we have a really good relationship with the people that we work with. And I mean, things are different because the volumes are so much higher. So we make an effort to meet face to face. And we now know how the whole process works. Like, all that gives a lot of insight too. But definitely the fine tuning will never stop. We're still learning so much about, even now I'm trying to source different fabrics to, some garments you want to make, your fabric library doesn't really lend itself to that exact thing. So you're always trying to, also I think finding the perfect fabrics that you keep in your fabric library is like really labor intensive.
Your fabric library. I've never even heard of that.
I think I just made that up. I've never said that before, but it gets the point across.
Can we go back to like the money piece in the beginning? Because I feel like a lot of people listening who are maybe dreaming about starting a fashion label one day would love to know, how much does it cost to start a fashion label? What did you need to invest, even when it was at that level of passion project? Like, what is the kind of realistic capital that you need to get started, and how were you funding it in the beginning?
So this isn't my first brand. The brands before were my practice runs, and they were much smaller. But I closed down the brand that I had before that and sold off my remaining stock wholesale very cheaply, which was actually a regret of mine, even closing that brand. I should have just kept it running. But so I put some money in that way, and then there was my business partner also contributed her share. But to be honest, I mean, we weren't fully trying to bootstrap, but our investment in the initial stages was small. And we didn't even realize, we were thinking very small at that point. We didn't think, let's create a 2-year plan and see, put it into phases and how many collections. We really just thought, actually, we didn't do much thinking in the beginning. It was just creating and then seeing what was left. And we did reach a point where we were like, okay, well, we've exhausted our funds. We need to get some more. So it's just crazy thinking back to how small we thought in the beginning. But I guess that's what gets you to where you are, because otherwise the barrier to entry would have been too big in our mind. But I would say if your listeners would really like pragmatic tools, it depends on the level you want to go. You could, like, my level before that was $2,000. Maybe I started that, and that was my bread and butter. Like, that was my money that kept me alive pretty cushionly. It was good. I traveled the world like doing that and just working on my laptop at night. But nowadays, if it was me starting a new business, I'd want to have a certain standard to the imagery, and you'd want to do things right. But then you could even get away with doing super small POs or starting off on pre-order. You could be super savvy. I don't think you need more than 10,000 or even 5,000 to start something. Get a friend, take some photos on your iPhone, like my first brand that I would sell everything. It was a self-timer in my lounge room. I didn't even know how to use the camera. The times have changed again. There's a lot of competition and you have to be a little bit more slick to elicit trust from your buyer. But I do think, don't let the dream go if money's the obstacle. Because the bank's not going to give you money in the beginning. Just start off, see what reaction you get, and build. Easier said than done, but
one foot in front of the other. In that beginning, like first collection, how many pieces did you have and what were the minimums you had to order at that time?
Oh, it was very small. But I think tightly edited is the way to go in the beginning, and you're not trying to be a supermarket of clothing. Probably not, unless that's your business model. Niche is the way to go. And like, I remember listening to all these marketing podcasts, and they were like, specialize, specialize, specialize. Do what you do and do it really well. So we did our silk pantsuits in 2 prints, like a really graphic red and beige one, and then the cooler end of the color palette was like all purple and pale pink and blue. And then we just had matching swims, so 2 bikini sets and 1 swimsuit, and we did them every piece in 2 prints. And then 2 scarves, really small. And that was enough. That was enough for interchangeable styling. So the head to toe look could be headscarf, bikini, or the swimsuit as a bodysuit and the pants. And the shirt.
And was that like, as in, when you say small, do you mean like 20 units per item or do you mean like 200 units per item?
I was just talking about the range plan. So on paper, the amount of styles that we had, to me, now that's small. But I actually think it's perfect to start off with that. So it would have been 2 shirts, 2 pants, 4 bikinis, 2 swimsuits. And then minimum order quantities, I can't even remember. I know the minimum that we could order was 12 with our supplier. But then our swim guy, we could order whatever, actually.
Oh, that's amazing.
Things are probably not going to fly out the door when you launch your brand. So, yeah, we ordered small. And it probably was 20 pieces to begin with. But the lead times are so short. I could just print another 10 meters of fabric back then and order another 10. This wasn't a part of our world, thinking of big PO numbers and getting investment for that. About 150 SKUs or 170 SKUs per collection.
I feel like we had pretty much summed up the manufacturing piece. So I want to kind of shift gears and talk about marketing, but specifically the launch. I love to always find out, like, those early days. How did you get started? How did you get your first sale? Like, what was that process?
So the process was, I don't want to say anticlimactic, but we didn't work towards having like a database pre-launch. It was just a bit of a soft launch. Now I look back, I can give it that name, but at the time we didn't categorize it. It's slow. You don't get fireworks and a big hullabaloo. Like, you're live and then you wait for orders to come in. So we got our first sale. I always used to remember this girl's name. She's ordered from us since, which is really cute. But I mean, go them to kind of take a punt on this random new Instagram brand. So there must have been something in our product that they liked. But the sales were very slow in the beginning. But we're very lucky because early on in our first collection, we got picked up by Moda Operandi and sold wholesale to them. So that was the kicker.
Oh, wow. Straight away. So did they reach out to you or were you actively pursuing retailers at that point?
I've never successfully actively pursued a major retailer. It has never worked. Every single major retailer we've partnered with has sought us out. In the first 3 years of our business, we haven't acquired any new majors in the last 2 years. So do you know what that tells me? They're very interested in getting the hot new thing. Emerging brands have a lot of appeal for them because they want to be the first one to get it. You're not saturated. You're not on every website. But then there are other things that they're not wanting to encounter, which is you being unprepared, not being able to deliver on time. And we did have some insight because a friend of mine knows the buyer at a certain major, and she was like rooting for us, and she gave us some advice like, you've really always got to appear that you're going to deliver, try to do the 3 seasons a year instead of dropping down to 2, because they really won't back you if they think that there's any possibility that you won't be able to fulfill what's asked of you, which had never occurred to me. Yeah.
So all the major retailers, they all want 3 collections a year minimum or just like 3 full stop?
2 minimum, but really to compete and offer newness and stay relevant, if you want to grow as a brand, I think 3 is probably minimum, which sounds like a small amount, but per year, so every 4 months, God, it just creeps up. But there could be like 3 seasons and then you do a collaboration per year, so then it's 4. There is also, if you do 3, quite a large gap in between 2 to 3, and then that's a bit of a cash flow gap as well, which can be a challenge.
To me, 3 sounds like a lot. Are you planning your collections for like do you already know what's coming out all of next year?
Absolutely. So we know now what's coming out. The end of July now, we know what will come out in the end of Jan or mid-Jan. You know what? That's not even that crazy. It should probably be an extra season ahead. So as soon as these, like literally next week, concept for the new collection that'll come out in, is it May? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But you have to be ahead because we need 3 months to produce anyway. So we'll go to market for it with a collection 3 months before we deliver it.
Okay, I've got more questions about who did you say the first retailer was? Moda?
Moda Operandi, yeah.
When you say you've never successfully pitched or like gotten someone that you were chasing, are you actively sending emails and lookbooks and that kind of thing?
Let me define that because, that could be misleading. So we have an agency now and we're in showrooms with our agents in like America and Europe and Australia, and they have all of our samples so buyers can come through and feel and see the samples and then place their order. They've only gotten us 1 new major retailer though. It's all been independent boutiques. But when I say that I didn't ever successfully get one, it was when friends and I that were in the industry would swap buyers' contacts and we'd kind of do a cold reach out or an intro. And initially there was some excitement, acknowledgement. And they'd be like, yes, this looks great, or I'll pass this on to a different department. I've tried it with a few people. It never worked on both sides.
Wow, that's so interesting. So you've got to kind of really just hope that they're looking at your brand. In the beginning, just to paint the picture, when Moda reached out to you, how many followers did you have on social media? Do you think they cared about anything about that? Or was it literally just like, your clothes are different, they're unique. I personally love it. I think our customers will love it. I want to chat.
I know for a fact that buyers are looking at your socials, and certain buyers from certain majors are very hesitant to take you on unless it's of a certain caliber, and different regions look for different things. For instance, like the UAE is really looking for a lot of brand awareness through influencers from that region. So Moda Operandi had a unique business model at the time. They were really the leaders in the whole trunk show. So it's not buy now, wear now. It was you watch the runway or you get an exclusive pre-buy. So everything felt very exclusive and special. And then I guess that maybe was where we could become an asset because we were undiscovered and could offer something that no one had seen. So we were included in a group trunk show.
What was the investment into that?
It was a small PO for the trunk show, but it's sell-through was good because they're not going to keep buying you if the sell-through's not.
So to get that sell through and like to actively make sure that that was going to be a successful partnership, how much money did you need to invest in like marketing or additional things?
That doesn't affect, I mean, your marketing would be part of your broad, bigger picture strategy, but to ensure sell-through, I think it comes down to your fits and your fabrics being really, you just hope you get a low return rate and things fit and people love it. I mean, a lot of it is having that it factor and making people just want your things. And also, it's out of your hands, but all you can pray for is good feedback because some retailers, they give you very detailed feedback and it's so useful. And we definitely use that. It's sometimes so detailed. So an example would be, so different retailers might tell you what colors and what pieces really sell the best for them, or like the tried and true favorites, or they see a trend coming up and then they think you should jump on that. And I'm not anti-trend. I think it's a great way to grow your business, like ride the wave of a trend. And other feedback, especially from our agents, it's really valuable. It can range from, with the UAE, more modest clothing that we'd need to develop our collection to include, down to like micro advice. Like maybe the buttons here, they had feedback that the logo on the buttons wasn't to their liking. That's real feedback that I've had.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was such a nice thing having the logo on the buttons.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Love a logo. And your logo is great. Wow, that's so cool. Okay, so Moda places this order. It's kind of the first pivotal moment for you guys in business. And this is back in 2019 or 2018 that you launched, right?
2019, it would have been. Oh, I think it was 2018. So it did feel very exciting at the time. We were excited and we poured over the contract, trying to get our head around all the terminology, which now we know off the back of our hand. But in the beginning, again, you can't just Google this stuff. It's like lingo or jargon. So, cancel dates, net 30, net 60, it didn't mean anything to us. So we were very excited and we didn't have any systems in place. So I remember we had to learn barcoding. Well, not learn it, implement it. And the way we did it, I printed all these little labels on Microsoft Word and would print them like 8 to a page and just spend a day like sticky taping sticker paper to a piece of paper on like what? Now we've registered with GS1 barcodes, and that honestly felt like we deserved a trophy after doing that because it's unpleasant. It's admin, right? But you have to have GS1 registered products. Yeah, all the fun things, but it's worth it. It's just getting your product market ready.
Right. Okay. And so what happens after that? Because you get this one order, but like, how do you kind of start to build, consistent, stable traffic to your own website and consistent, stable sales through your own e-commerce site, as well as continuing to spread through retail and things like that?
Well, the retail was the best way to get traffic on our own website. And I think that was why we acquired the majors early on, because they're just looking at what the other majors are stocking. I think that was the best exposure, and even getting posted on the majors' Instagram. Like when we were very young and we got posted on the Moda Instagram, I think we rode off that Instagram post for months. Like it was good. See, this was pre-COVID, and I always wonder with how we started, if it's completely different now. Like I don't even know if the buyers would have taken us on now. I think everything's always just getting a little more slick and the expectations get a little more higher. But how to grow our business? So good content is always just a chase for new, more content, really defining who we were, like our identity, and trying to remain true to that. And that's ongoing. You're always evolving and growing. But it's a bit of a conundrum. Like it can be harder than, it's harder than I thought to really pin down your brand DNA. But now, I also knowing our girl, the CinCin girl, we just refer to her or our two or three customers like constantly, and I think that's the best way to design.
How do you approach influencer marketing, especially in the early days? Because obviously you have a product that's a higher price point, so you can't, gift at scale. So how did you, in the very beginning, think like, how much of our product should we allocate to gifting? How did you approach that strategy? And then let's talk through how that's evolved.
So the gifting scape has changed so much for us. When you start out, in a nutshell, no one's interested because it's not really a win-win. The influencer's not getting exposure from being posted on your account. So they've really just got to love the product. It was a lot harder to get attention, to get replies, whereas now we're inundated and we actually get quite a few amazing influencers message us that we're so excited to like create something with. Yeah, in the beginning, it was definitely hard. There was a lot more reaching out for less of a response. And we were starting off doing the silk pantsuit, so they definitely had a high cost price for us to gift in the beginning when every piece kind of meant something to us. But as for strategy, we were quite vague. We would just say, let's aim for 2 gifts a week.
And just on the kind of the CinCin girl, basically.
Yes, but back then now I'm thinking we were really trying to think, who is that? Or giving different people a go because we thought they encapsulated like a different facet of who we were. But yeah, it's hard and people make a lot less effort when you're an emerging brand or to have just launched. No one was ironing our clothes, so they were creased. Silk pants, they'd literally get them out of the packet and put them on, and I'm like, we need to make a clause in the gift, although it wasn't a paid gift most of the time, like a paid post. Creasing, the bane of my existence.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would have thought it would have been like the same as retailers being like, I've discovered a new brand that isn't everywhere. So as an influencer, especially one who's, a fashion or beauty influencer who is kind of discovering things and doing different things, that it would have been the opposite. That's interesting.
I really think from their perspective, they're trying to get exposure with every post.
Right.
God, I'm just thinking back to some of the shots and I think the whole Instagram landscape was different. People are pros now. It's not okay to just take a little grainy selfie in the bathroom mirror like that. People have full-scale production now in their spare room. And there were no reels, no video either. I mean, it's a lot more fun now, really, if you think about it.
Agreed. For you, when did you start investing in paid media? So ads on Meta and Google or whatever it might have been. And what was your budget in the beginning? Like, when were you like, oh, we should start dabbling in this side of business?
So we dabbled from the beginning in a tiny way, testing the waters, doing what our friends had done, which was run ads themselves. And I mean, I know they had success doing that, but I think another landscape, the ads landscape, just moved so quickly. So that wasn't cutting the mustard. And then we did make a conscious decision.
Cutting the mustard.
Have you not heard that from our dude?
No.
We did make the conscious decision, right, okay, it's time to really maybe move out of passion project land. And we did then get a bit more serious. And we wanted to I don't want to say go hard with advertising because it's always like a process of starting somewhere and building on that. Also, I don't know if we had that much data to be successful in the beginning because our pixel was still growing, and we've learned a lot through doing our meta ads, that's for sure. We were such a small fry when we started doing meta ads as well. It's also finding the right fit. Who is going to run your ads? We were even thinking, do we keep doing it in-house? Do we get like a freelancer? Do we work with an agency? And I mean, it's a riddle. You're always trying to, even if you have a really successful ad, when is it going to end? How long will it last? How much more budget do we put in? If you replicate that exact same thing, there's no guarantee that that's even going to have a good result. It's really crazy. It's not how I expected it to be. It's not a quick fix. It's not like, let's get capital to put into ads to guarantee an output. So to me, I still haven't solved the meta ads Rubik's Cube. And I think it can be quite risky. I really think starting small and just building on your wins, and also you will work out a basic skeleton of your formula. So we found what worked for us was, we call them our transitions. And it's our girl getting changed into lots of different outfits, TikTok style, but we'd edit that for real. So it would be a little bit more aesthetically polished and chic, and the music would be different to TikTok music. But whether it's the girl clicking her fingers or the song has like a beat to it where the outfits change, they work for us. That was quite good. And because we have so many prints and so many colors or so many different ways to style one piece, I think it really captured people's attention. So they'd watch, and I'd always get DMs of screenshots of the girl moving, like, what's this outfit, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so that's why I say it's a bit more fun, because it is like more dynamic and entertaining. I guess it is entertainment based now because it's all about capturing people's attention for longer.
Yep, totally. When you think about like, you know, the ads side of things and then the influencer gifting side of things and the other marketing initiatives you do, you know, maybe around pop-ups or retail or whatever, do you think that for you guys in fashion, in the fashion industry, it's kind of like all of these things kind of just are working kind of holistically together? Or is there one thing that you're like, this is really what does it for us? Like, you know.
It's holistically how it fits together. I've never thought of it as holistic, but that's, yeah, bigger picture, broader way of thinking. And I think we're still really getting that into our heads. Everything work together. Everything supports each other. So there's no use spending money on meta ads if you don't have the supporting EDM and the stories. And, you know, it's got to be cohesive. It's got to capture people, and you've got to have purpose. And I don't think there's one key. I think one doesn't exist without the other. But really, the root and the foundation of it all is product, 100%, and then content. Because you can have a white t-shirt and the content, how you present that white t-shirt, you know, your brand identity's got to come through with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally. Yeah, it starts with a product that is something people obviously want, love, want to tell their friends about, and how that's presented online.
And the quality is good. And yeah, because marketing, what if you did have an amazing result, but you don't have like a strong foundation? I think there's a lot to be said for the slow turtle wins the race.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Just keep chipping away. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem in today's world. It's like we look at people online and we look at brands online, and of course it always seems like that brand has just popped and it's just happened overnight. But of course it's taken 10 years of previous knowledge and previous things stacking together and slowly coming up to whatever that brand or founder is doing now.
Absolutely. And I used to think, oh, we'll reach that milestone and that's when everything will change, or we'll get a break like someone famous will wear. And now I'm very sure that that's not how it works. I imagine it to be like a house, and you're just putting bricks, tiny little bricks, and building that house. It's cumulative. Everything's cumulative. And then in a year, you look back and go, whoa, we've come so far. But it never feels like this whoosh. Sometimes if it's a whoosh, that's detrimental, because I feel like the motor thing, we were unprepared. We had, the learning curve was steep. If that order was huge, we would have stumbled massively, and we might have burnt that bridge because there would have been faulties, I'm sure, if the order was like 4 times the size. And delivery times, it was just so hard back then. Now we have all of our supply chains and our own factory ironed out so well. Timing is not a problem, but it can ruin your business if you cannot deliver on time.
Yeah, Jesus. Gosh, did I see that you were recently featured in Vogue?
Yes, we were.
That is so cool. Congratulations. How did that come about?
Thanks. Thank you. Not sure. They posted that one and we just Googled it and found it. But we've been included. We've had PR agencies in the past and they got us one inclusion, and then 2 other ones quite a long time ago actually happened organically. They included us in an Australian, it was called Beach Please. Like the 10 new swim brands, or the 8 new swim brands that you need to know now. And it's always exciting being anywhere near Vogue.
I mean, the dream, the actual dream. Have you had any celebs wear your clothes?
Yes. We had Lily Reinhart wear our things a few times, and she's super lovely. And then we had a Victoria's Secret. Oh, we have had celebrities, and usually I don't really know them, and I put them on my story and people are like, oh my God, it's them. Like some girl off Modern Family, I can't remember her name, but she's got a lot of personality and wore a bright yellow outfit to her bridal party and like bachelorette party and looked so beautiful.
Oh my God, I love that. I love Modern Family. I'm obsessed.
I can't remember her name, but she's a return customer too. I love it when they buy; they're not gifted.
That is amazing. So amazing. Maybe if it pops into your head. I want to talk a little bit more about the retail side of the business because that's obviously a big part of what you guys are focusing on and what you're doing. And I feel like you're stocked in just so many cool ones. I think I saw you're just stocked in Revolve now too.
We are, yeah.
At the stage of the business that you're at now, a couple years in, obviously like growing, doing really well, what is a ballpark kind of PO that a major retailer would place? Like, what's the kind of level of order? Is it like 100 grand, 50 grand, more? And like, what's the, I don't know, how does it work basically? And you don't need to be specific, but like just ballparks.
I'm actually going to say there is no ballpark because I talk to all my friends, all my, not friends, like the contacts in the industry, and we kind of keep close and always swap info because it's like gold. It seriously is like, how much was your PO? What are your terms? What are your discounts that you have to give? When you make a partnership with a retailer, you'll have an initial markup, an IMU percentage, and then often there's a trade discount or a marketing co-op discount. And it depends on your shipping terms. It could be like, well, if you're not doing landed terms with us, then we need a trade discount of this. But we do landed now. But also some bigger retailers will just want a discount because they are who they are. But as for the figures thing, it will also change wildly throughout the lifespan of your business. And I guess every market, and market is like the selling period for a collection, you're building on what you've done before based on their feedback. You go and you make your collection bigger and better and you hope it's just the best thing they've ever seen. And then your orders will grow. And then eventually you'll have breakthroughs where it grows a lot. And then you're also hoping that your sell-through continues to improve. So our sell-through also reveals where your customer is. So Revolve has proven to really be in line with our customer. She's more of a party girl. USA is definitely our market. You know, it's fun, flirty, a bit sexy, whereas other retailers have a very different woman. And then there are facets of our brand that cater to that woman, but it's definitely not just like this all-encompassing yes. So Revolve's definitely our most exciting stockers.
Yeah, I can see that. Even just thinking about them in general, it seems like it would be.
And they're great with recuts. The US is a recut region, whereas like Europe, they're just going to put all their eggs in the basket in the initial order.
Out of all your major retailers, what's the biggest PO that you've gotten?
Okay, well, I actually can tell you though, I'm waiting on a very exciting PO, and I think it will. I'm hoping when we get off this call that it's come in, and that will be the biggest PO we've ever received. Maybe 3 times as big. We're chatting like, do we have capacity to fulfill this? Funding? Where are we at with this? So, okay. I need to touch wood now because we haven't got it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's in the bag, and that is exciting, but also a little bit like you've got to make sure that you're equipped. Like the terms and conditions are long. So, you know, if the sell-through is poor, are they going to make you take products back? Is there going to be a product swap? There's all sorts of things we need to consider because the stakes are higher. Like, yes, it's really exhilarating, but then we've got to deliver, like the pressure's on.
Oh my gosh, well, I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to hear if that goes through.
Oh, thanks. Me too. I hope so.
You touched on something I want to ask about there. It's actually a 2-part question. It's about the funding side of how you keep going and like the working capital side, and also the terms. And, you know, how do you go about negotiating better payment terms? Have you been able to kind of across your retailers? And yeah, like how are you funding each order? When you get a huge order that's 3 times the size, I imagine you have to be like, okay, fuck, where do we get the money from?
Well, where do I start? So in fashion, the cash flow cycle is brutal. They say that most fashion labels die in their 3rd season because you've outlaid for your 1st season, you haven't recouped for your 2nd season, and then you need to produce a 3rd season. So everybody, well, this is what like a maven of the industry told us in the beginning. She's like, yes, you've made it to your 3rd season. So there's that. And obviously the payment terms with majors can be, through COVID, net 90. So we would have to deliver our goods, and 3 months later we received payment. So they say, really, it was like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months.
It's so frustrating.
So cash flow is a bitch, basically, with fashion. Like, that's just the way it is. So initially, too, you are catering to their whim. You just want your foot in the door. You'll do anything possible to be represented by them. And after our motor operandi experience, I knew that the exposure is just so great that it really is worth it. Even if you say, oh, this is just a PR exercise, it's worth it. Initially, the terms were X Works because we're shipping everything from Bali, which is not very desirable for a major to take on. I remember one time for Shopbop, they agreed to X Works, which means we ship it from Bali and then it lands in the United States. So it's subject to customs. They had an agent, their own agent, and they organized the label for its shipment, and it was stuck in there for months. And they kept asking us for help, and we couldn't help. It was like in the USA, like, you have your agent, you need to do it. But yeah, because if they didn't get it in time for the season, maybe they'll never order from us again. But they did, and now we ship everything landed. But now we have an agent too. We're not doing the negotiating ourselves. So an agent over time will work to just get the best deal. It's not even always about the best terms. It's about them ordering more or them balancing their swim order with more resort, or like if we have a swap, getting the best arrangement out of that.
How do you get an agent?
You just find one that would work for your niche and your product and be a really good fit that you think will work their butt off to sell your product. And then you may or may not pay a retainer and you're represented in their showroom space. And then every market, they will use their relationships with the buyers to sell your goodies.
So back to the funding piece for working capital. When you're a fashion brand, even if it's not you guys, but what is the playbook for capital then? Like, where do you go as a fashion founder to be like, okay, I need funding to, like, are you going to like Shopify Capital or PayPal Capital, or are you going and finding investors? Or are you personally getting investment or credit cards or bank loans, or like, what is it?
So as a rule, people will fund an invoice, but they're not going to fund, maybe there's losses and you're trying to save it. That's different. When you just need money to produce because people want your product, it's a lot. It's great. Like, Shopify Capital is a no, I think. When you really dive deep into the terms, not good. I think it's an emergency button.
What's not good about it?
I think it's like short-term parachute vibe. I just think the terms are not good at all. And if you went under, Shopify's never going to lose because they'll be the first person that money goes to. I don't know.
Not cutting the mustard.
It's not at all. It's not cutting the mustard. Basically, the terms are crap. So you're paying too much interest. So like any margin that you had, is there really going to be any cream left on top? I don't know. I wouldn't think you'd even want to run your business on that. But then again, if you're being offered quite good money on your Shopify Capital, if it pops up when you look at your store, there's $100,000 for you to take if you want it. That means you're doing all right. That means the sales are coming in. So surely there's another avenue to get funding. So what we did was make a 5-year model, which was very detailed, with an actuary who's a data nerd and a genius, really, because he would think so logically, and that's also planning. That's not my forte. And we budgeted every little bit. And obviously a model is not real life. You're creating this kind of playbook, a fantasy of how the next 5 years are going to play out. But we were hoping that, once we get this amount of money, sustain us through the fashion seasons and these 2 months, net 30, all the production cycles, even if our orders go up to this point, we'll still have enough money with the capital that we've got now. So we are predicting a long time ahead. And if things go better than the model, that's fine. You can always find a way to fund that. And there's a lot of different ways. You could have a direct investor, or you could even do factoring, where they'll help you pay an invoice. Still tricky. I mean, is bootstrapping even possible? I don't know. It comes to a certain point. In fashion, it'd be pretty hard.
Yeah, right. And so for you guys have investors or an investor that helps you kind of like keep going over this 5-year plan.
Yeah. But then you've got to be planned. You can't go to, they're not like
Yeah.
a money bag, like, oh, hey, we need a bit more. It's like, no, well, why? It needs to be all laid out, and then you're responsible for sticking to your budget.
Where did you find your actuary? I haven't heard that word before. Your data guru.
If you Google it, it will say like someone who analyzes numbers. He's extremely analytical. Like, it's so awesome to have that yin and yang thing, just to have brains that work differently to yours. Like even Lou, my business partner, I feel like we work so complementary to each other.
And did you find him on Google or like through a recommendation or something?
No, used to live in South Africa where Louise, my business partner, lived, and he was just known in her network, recommended from a friend.
Right. Okay. And so he works with you as like a consultant whenever you need kind of thing.
Yes, but he's quite involved in the business. He really believes in us and goes above and beyond and helps us not just with numbers, but with like logistics and stock system, all sorts. Whenever we're stuck, we can go to him for knowledge and say, can you draw up a comparison of this and this? Or can you really unpack the numbers behind this? Like, I know I'm getting these statistics, but when you factor in like, what could it be? Fees, interest, this, or when we put money into that, like what actually comes out? It's interesting. And we're very lucky that he genuinely cares about CinCin's. Like, he wants us to succeed.
Oh,
And
I love that.
Yeah, he's good. He chairs our meetings. He's the mediator sometimes. Like the voice of reason or the voice of unreason a lot of the time, actually, because he's so methodical. We're like, no, right. I guess our minds just think so differently. So I have to keep him in check sometimes.
Oh my gosh. You recently launched a store in Bali. I was lucky enough to go there and do some shopping. And you also launched the Da Maria pop-up store, which I drove past and was like, that's so cool. How's it going? What's the impact been since you kind of launched these physical representations of your brand?
Well, there's been a lot of buzz. I think it's just amazing to have a space that represents who you are as a brand and to be able to have people in and it almost be like a showroom, because it's just the best possible way and the most beautiful space to display our wares in. And we've designed it ourselves. So I think it's aesthetically punchy. Yeah. And I think the impact is very good for brand building credibility, hype, aside from it being really fun, like a project that we were just dying to do for a while. And I think the position's really good. And as Bali grows, I know that will become quite a hub, because already there's some of the best restaurants on that street. But I think it'll be our home for a while.
Shelter's on that street, right?
It is. And Bar Vera.
Yeah, Bar Vera's really cool.
A new one opening soon. So yeah, it's all happening. But
and the Soul rooftop is also on that street, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Do you think you will open more stores? Like, is your goal to be like have a boutique in, Australia or the US or something?
We talk about that as being a goal down the track. I'd love to have maybe a Miami or LA store. Oh my God, Capri. Let's do it.
Oh my God, Capri. That would be so sick. Oh wait, that's what I was going to ask you.
Sorry, Capri. Yeah.
Do you guys do like Miami Swim Week and these kind of big fashion, trade show events? Or is that not part of the strategy?
We've done it once. We did it last market. So just 2 months ago, we were at Cabana, which is one of the main, there's Cabana and Swim Show, I think, at Miami. And we did Cabana. So it's, trade show. We had our main line displayed next to our collaboration with Hervé Leger there. And it's just really good because people can experience the samples. And
that's key, being positioned next to someone like that.
Yeah, well, we're represented by our agency, so it's all the other brands in the agency in our booth. It's good. I know they represent us really well, and I just love the thought of people stumbling on us more than usual. So a lot of independent boutique buyers are there.
What's been the impact so far? I mean, it's 2 months, so I feel like it's still early days, but what's been the impact?
Also, we didn't do a show. Like, there's no models on the runway. I'm not even sure if that's the best path for us long term. The impact, it wasn't too huge, to be honest. I wonder about the relevancy of that compared to just our regular showroom because it is quite specific. It's in Miami, right? So I know it's indie boutique focused. Indie boutique buyers are the people that are going to be there mainly. Do you know what it might be like? An impact that you can't quantify because it might be buyers that have done a couple of buys from you, but seeing you at Cabana instills your credibility and it builds hype and they can talk to the agent about our collection and it just really builds your brand. Like you're there, your presence alone is important.
Totally.
But it's not like we acquired all these new stockists because we already were showing in showrooms in LA, New York, Paris, London, and 2 in Australia. So that was just an added.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of samples, June. It's nearly 1,000 samples a season that we have to get out and get shipped back to my mum in Australia. Sorry, Mum.
To your mum. Oh, I love that. Shout out to your mum being part of the business.
Hey, Mum. Mum will listen. So will Dad. Hey, Dad.
Do you ever travel to like all these places to be part of the showings, or are you going to start?
To be honest, I don't think buyers want to talk to you. They want to get their buy done and they want to be a bit brutal and talk to the agent and be like, oh, no, don't like the red.
Yeah, just be really upfront and honest.
I think they'd have to pussyfoot around us a bit. But then again, I'd love to have a relationship with the buyers more. That's something I've wondered. Is it detrimental that I'm not getting to talk to these buyers? But I think there is a definite expiry date for when Lou and I can get away with not being over there at certain market periods. Like maybe we could do an event or something. But next year we'll definitely be heading to LA, forge some relationships and just be on the ground. But I mean, it's not essential. Zoom calls and just the product speaks for itself, really. We're also not a brand. It's not called Geo and Lou, right? It's not dependent on us.
I think as well, like the pandemic changed the way that everything works. And maybe before it put more pressure on people to travel and be part of these things. But now in today's world, everyone's like, nah, let's do it. Let's do it on a Zoom call.
But I do think, I completely agree with you. I just know Lou and I could sell our collection better than anybody else. I know that. Like even just, we know the product inside out. We've been through the process of making it from start to finish. And I think the way we wear it and the way that we have extra insight, it's a shame that we can't do that.
I think that's true for every founder. It's the same for every founder. You're always going to be the best seller and the best representative for your brand because no one cares as much as you do. That's for sure the truth.
Yeah. Get me in that showroom.
Soon.
I don't think I'm a very good salesperson, really, but from the sincerity and of the excitement that I have about my own.
Yeah, I would disagree. I would say maybe in the typical sense of a salesperson, sure, but because you live and breathe your brand, you're the best person to be the seller of your brand. If you were starting a fashion business or a fashion brand rather tomorrow, what would you do the same or differently if you had to kind of pass on some advice for anyone listening who wants to start a brand or is in the fashion industry or is interested about fashion?
So I know it's really boring and it's probably not what anyone wants to hear, but I would budget everything and plan exactly where every dollar is going to go initially. So one day you don't go, oh, I want to do that now, but I did that. So now I don't have any funds for that. I would plan everything. And what would I do differently from what we did? I would have a much stronger aesthetic and vibe for Instagram. As basic as that sounds, I think having a super strong and defined identity is so important in the beginning. You're never going to do everything perfectly in the beginning. The mistakes are the most valuable thing.
Any mistakes you want to share?
That's what business is. It's mistakes and problem solving and then doing things better the next time. But what would I not do? I wouldn't use silk. It's so expensive.
Do you use silk now or you've switched away from silk?
No, we've switched away from it. There's so many things that just don't work. So our customers jet set. They're on holiday. They're going vacay. Silk is a crumpled mess when you take it out of your suitcase. And we do prints. It's got to be vibrant. It's got to last. Silk fades and yellows Whereas, yeah, semi-synthetic or a blend is going to hold that color so much better. And silk pulls easily. Also, when you're wearing our clothing in hot environments that might be sweaty or even near a pool, you need something quick dry that is not going to look like a rag after a few wears. It can't be that special. It's not evening wear. You're not wearing it to a ball. Some pieces of ours you are, but definitely as we were very swim and sarong focused and cover up, silk is not the way to go. So okay, let me funnel that into it. Be realistic with your product. Think it's not just, you're not just being an artist. This has got to be a viable commercial product. Take steps in any way possible just to reduce the cost. Because I guarantee you're probably doing your figures wrong and you're not making as much money as you think in the beginning. So get that cost down.
Great advice. I love that. Thank you so much. We are up to the 6 quick questions part of the episode. I might have asked you some of these already, but I still ask them all the same at the end for a part 2 on the episode. Question number 1 is, what's your why? Why do you wake up every day and work on CinCin?
Okay, so I think my why is the adventure. So think about what's an adventure. It's like chartering unknown territory, or like the feeling of exhilaration or risk taking that like pays off. That's adventure. And to me, that's the adventure of building a brand or building a business. And I know, of course, the root of that is building an incredible product. Excites my customer. But the reason why I'm driven to do that is the adventure. It's actually stereotyped too that me as a female fashion brand owner just love. Everyone's like, oh, but you must just love designing, and they think that I've got my watercolors out and I'm just like playing with fabric and colors. That's actually like 5% of what I spend my time doing, but B, it's not the most exciting part. I love, like, maybe you've had a hard week making decisions or things have been a bit monotonous, and then you have a win, like this buy that may come through tonight. That's just such a rush. And that's definitely the best thing about it. Makes all the sacrifices worth it, because without a doubt you make a lot of sacrifices building a company.
Love that. Question number 2 is, what's been your favorite marketing moment so far?
Well, it has to be the Vogue inclusion, any of them. And also, yeah, Vogue. That's it. You can't beat that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Can't beat that. What is your go-to resource for business if you have to think about like a podcast or a newsletter or a book that you've read that you can recommend?
Okay, so it'd definitely be this podcast for inspiration. Love it. And also, the classics, How We Built This by Guy Raz. Vogue Business of Fashion is awesome. Oh, WGSN as well, which is a trend forecasting website. But yeah, good old Boss really is great. Diet Prada keeps you in the loop too.
Love Diet Prada. So good. Question number 4, how do you win the day? What are your AM or PM rituals and habits that keep you feeling happy and motivated and successful?
So I think it's really easy when you're in a startup or a business. You're working your ass off. Like, there's not many rest periods, right? And I know it can weigh you down. And I think being present or taking moments in the day to be present, maybe without a device, is how I win my day. So it's resisting the urge to pick up the phone in the morning and just be with my dogs. I think my dogs are how I win my day, because they are like this mechanism to pull me into the present. And when you just sit and be with them, and just the best. Even watching the sunset with them, and my phone's run out of battery, they just keep you in the real world. And then other things like hot showers, and I don't know, really, it's just dogs.
I mean, I 100% agree with you.
And you know how I don't win my day? When you wake up and you're in bed and you pull the laptop onto your lap, that's the first thing. And when you've gone to sleep the night before, that was the last thing you did. In a way, it's a sad little existence, you know. The other day I was like, I've got to enrich my life. I can't just work. That can't be all there is. So winning my day, dog, enriching, like trying to do something else other than work.
Love that. Yeah. Dogs are winning the day. I agree. What's been your worst money mistake in the business, and how much did it cost you?
Okay. If you had have just said, what's been the worst mistake you've made and how much did it cost you, I would have reiterated what I said before, that I actually think mistakes are inevitable, and if not your greatest teacher, without a doubt. And that's probably how you build an amazing business, because if you're not making any mistakes, then what the hell are you doing? You're not putting yourself out there. You're probably not challenging yourself. But get down to the nitty gritty. But the nitty gritty is a bit boring. It's just a photo shoot. I know we didn't use any of the images. So we paid for the photographer, the studio, the makeup artist, the model, and it was like a 5-hour shoot. And nowadays, that would have been much more costly to us. But back then, the cost of our shoots was so much lower. But yeah, those shots never saw the light of day. So that's a waste. Waste of everyone's energy, everyone's time and money, of course. But yeah, so that cost us $4,000.
Did you know, like on the shoot, yep, this isn't a vibe, we're not going to use it? Or was it when you got the pictures back, you were like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be?
It wasn't an aesthetic reason that we didn't use the shots, but the model was actually so rude. I nearly said, look, it's really clear that you don't want to be here, so let's just call it a day. Let's not bother with this. I'm going home. See ya. But we needed the shots, and Lou wasn't in Bali at the time. And I was like, no, I need to get these shots. So I've just got to work with this gal because she wanted to cancel the shoot and go to the Grand Prix. And we said, no, you can't. You have to do the shoot that you've been booked in to do because that's your job and you can't let us down. And she was pissed. She was really angry.
That is so weird.
I tried my best to soften the situation. I was like, oh, so how was your weekend? And she looked at me and went, well, how do you think? I'm not going to the Grand Prix now. I'm doing this to you. And awkward. But anyway, you got to do what you got to do. I had to get the pics, so I thought it was the best decision not to use those pics anyway. Because we do wholesale. It's all about those images. It's not like as fluid as if you're just doing retail. So.
Wow, crazy. Question number 6, last question. What is just a crazy story, good or bad, that you've had from building CinCin?
The crazy moments are just what's crazy at the time. It was crazy for us to get asked to be in the Motor Trunk show back in the day. And I remember being in a internet cafe. Is that even a thing? Just like a cafe. And Lou and I were so overwhelmed. And I just look back on that memory with such fondness. Like, that's so cute. Like, we were so... Oh, yeah, I cried when it went live on Motor. I was like, yeah, it's so amazing.
That is so amazing.
Because I knew the website, like, it is Pinch Me. And then the Vogues. I mean, they're the milestones that, especially if you love fashion and grow up with Vogue plastered on your walls. Like, I grew up in the ages magazines, right?
Yeah.
I was obsessed. My wall was a collage, and I'd even rent Vogues from the library and use my Stanley knife to, like, stealthily, like, cut some good pages out. So when we got Vogue, I was like, oh my God, this is happening. That's crazy to me. It seriously is. Like, that's what keeps you going.
Oh my God, Geo, this was so cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing like the whole bloody playbook for building a successful fashion brand.
Aw, thanks for listening to my babble. It was a pleasure.